Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, sponsored by Gamer Saloon. It's Friday, April 9th, 2021. Alex Barutha here with Shannon McKeown and Ken K-Train Kreitz.
All aboard!
This podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, RotoWire.com, and of course now YouTube, where Ken puts hours and hours. Every podcast is like a 12-hour shift for him. So
has the whining gotten excessive? Sorry.
The fans need to know how much you enjoy doing this podcast and how much work you put into it consistently. Let's jump into the news. So Victor Oladipo last night left a game with a knee injury. That was the Heat playing the Lakers. No official team update until today's evaluation, which could be, we might know the extent of that by the time you're hearing this on the pod. But this was only his fourth game with Miami. He's appeared in only 33 games this season. Ken, you saw this live.
Yes, I saw it live from my sports basement. It was a sweet backdoor pass from Jimmy Butler, a wide open dunk right in the middle of the lane for Oladipo, and you could tell he was hurt before he came down from the dunk. It looked like one of those NFL injuries where they're like, oh, that's not good, a non-contact knee injury. He lands, immediately grabs it, and then he tries to maybe if I ignore it, it'll go away, and he walks up and he slowly jogs up the court. But then right away, you're like, what is he doing? And then he's limping again, and the Heat eventually get the ball back, call timeout. But it does not look good for Oladipo.
Yeah, I mean, I think best case scenario, he'd be healthy for the real playoffs. But best case scenario could be he plays, the next game. But from what you're saying, that doesn't sound.
I'd be shocked if he's back in 2 weeks. But yeah, we'll get real news today versus our speculation, and obviously check RotoWire for the latest. They might announce something by the time this pod gets published. We'll see. Do they play tonight?
I don't think so.
I don't think Miami's playing tonight. Yeah, no back-to-back.
Shannon, from a fantasy perspective, is this just a lot more of like Kendrick Nunn?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It opens the door for Kendrick Nunn to be relevant again, and Tyler Hero to carry a bigger load on the offensive end. Pretty similar to what we've seen from Miami, all year. Is when they're man down, those are two guys who step up. And with Oladipo arriving in town, that basically made Nunn a non-factor. But I would expect him to get more run moving forward, and then Tyler Hero, who had a decent game last night, to pick up the slack again.
Ken, let's go to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, let's go to OKC, where they had 7 players score in double digits in their loss to Cleveland. Gentlemen, surprise quiz. Can you name the 7 players? Don't look at the box score. Resist cheating. Can you name the 7 players OKC had in double digits?
Yeah, Ty Jerome.
Oh, that was the impossible one. Look at you. Okay.
Maldon or Maladon, I forget how to say his name.
Theo Maladon.
My man Moses Brown.
Yeah.
Poku, Kenrich Williams, yes. Yeah, and Tony Bradley.
No.
Tony Bradley played though.
One of the guys who scored 12 points was only his 3rd game of the season. He was in only 13 games last year, which doesn't help at all. You won. Jalen Horde.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Jalen Horde. Oh, and Svi. Did you mention Svi? I assumed you would have mentioned.
But yes, yeah, of course.
Svi had 10 points. Svi Hailuk.
All in the first quarter.
Ooh, yeah.
For real.
Yeah. But I pressed you got Ty Jerome, who did lead him with 23.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry for the gotcha. I couldn't resist it, though. Alex, you just deferred there. Other than Piku, you just deferred to Shannon there.
Shannon looked excited to answer that question. So I'll let him have it.
Well, you're the one wearing the basketball hat, so I'm expecting
a
lot of enthusiasm.
I definitely would not have gotten Jalen Horde. That one, I forgot he signed with the team.
You could give me all day and night. And, the ESPN box score is J Horde, and I'm like, I better look up what this J means. I've never heard of this guy. Bradley did have 5 points, 4 boards, and 3 assists, their new backup center from Philadelphia, but didn't hit double digits. Sorry, Shannon.
Is there anybody you guys like from the Thunder in terms of someone to pick up for the rest of the season? I mean, it's Pokashevsky, Maladon. Those are the kind of 2 guys who stuck out to me because they're both seeing 30 minutes a game consistently.
How about Kenrich back-to-back 9 assist nights as a small forward? That seems like an interesting need. Maladon's gunning, so it's interesting he's running point forward for him.
Yeah, he does a little bit of everything. That's kind of what he is. He's like a light version, LITE version of Nick Batum. That's the type of player he is. Swiss Army knife, not really great at one thing, but can do a little bit of everything.
You're not elevating him to Grant Hill status?
Oh, no. No. But he flirted with triple double on Thursday, and there was a point in the game where I thought he was actually going to reach it. But he's worth a look while they're shorthanded. They're extremely shorthanded right now. Baisley's out, Dort's out, SGA's out. So it's pretty much anyone who's healthy and getting 28 plus minutes is worth a look on the Thunder right now. I like Ty Jerome. We've seen flashes from him, including last night's big scoring effort. I think he has the skills. I liked him coming out of college. Let's see, what's Ty Jerome averaging over the past? Yeah, not great. He's only seen 25 minutes per game over the past 5, averaging 9 points and 3.8 assists. If they continue to be shorthanded and Ty Jerome sees 30 minutes like he did last night, that I like his potential. Definitely in deeper leagues, I think he's a guy who's probably available and worth a look. I don't have him on my waiver wire talk, so let's see. Ty Jerome is available in 97% of leagues. So if you're in a deeper league, he's a guy who I actually think is kind of interesting.
Okay, you're giving your early long shot free agent snag there. Very well, very good. Alex, tell us who exploded for the Raptors in Florida.
Chris Boucher. Toronto had only 8 players available. Partially because of the suspension situation from the other day against the Lakers. My theory is that Adam Silver only fined OG Anunoby and didn't suspend him because then the Raptors would have only had 7 players and the game would not have happened, and they can literally not afford any more postponements. The
fans in Florida wouldn't stand for it if their beloved Raptors didn't take the court.
Yeah. So it was basically just like the Boucher and Pascal Siakam show. Boucher, 9th double of the season, first since March 29th.
38 points, 19 rebounds. Not a bad stat line. Only 1 block, I was surprised. Only 1 block, 1 steal. But
yeah, at the beginning of the season, he was someone we were talking about, like, lock this guy in for most improved, like, no question, first, 13 games of the season. And then Coach Nick Nurse was like, not giving him minutes, and he's inconsistent anyway. So if he's only getting 20 minutes,
this young Aaron Baines character.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Boucher is 28. He's not young, so it's like you're not really developing Boucher that much. You kind of are, but
he was late to basketball. Boucher's late to basketball. The international players, they always give him another few extra years.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't giving proper credit to the main man in Toronto nowadays, Malachi Flynn.
Yeah, that's true.
Crushing it. He got his first start. He got his first start last night. He'd come off the bench the previous 3 games and absolutely crushed it. Over this latest 4-game stretch. Yeah, he did good enough. He had 29 fantasy points. That's good enough. Over the past 4 games, 33 minutes per 13, 5.5, 5.3, 2.5 steals, 1 block. Drilling a couple 3-pointers per game. Malachi Flynn's a guy who I think in almost any size league, he's a streaming option. So as long as Van Fleet and Lowry remain out, Flynn's the guy. He's the guard to own in Toronto. Even though Bembry got a couple starts there initially, it was still more Flynn who was stepping up in the absence of their starting all-star caliber guards. So I like Flynn as a streaming option, assuming Van Fleet or Lowry miss any more time.
So Van Vliet should be back because he's out because of suspension,
yes.
Right? So he should.
Well, Van Vliet was injured, so he couldn't serve his suspension.
Yes.
So they have to wait till he gets healthy and then he serves it.
How do you prove a guy's healthy and that doesn't get like if you're the Raptors and say, "Oh yeah, he's healthy," give him the suspension. Like is there some independent doctor who works him out to,
I feel like I remember that happening at some point last season or the season prior, where the guy was like miraculously healthy to serve his suspension and then played the next game. But they did not do that in this case.
I want to reinforce the Flynn advice too. I'm picking him up. The fact that the Toronto Raptors are 20-32 right now,
right?
And assuming they don't get back into the playoff mix, that's when he actually would be, absolutely be a great pickup. Is if they go into full blown tank mode, because then you'll see guys like Lowry just sit. So Flynn's a guy. Even if you're not looking for just a short term streamer, he's a guy to keep on your radar for later in the season.
Well, with Terrence Davis gone, Norman Powell gone, they need points off the bench, and they especially need points off the bench for next year's roster. So it would make sense to develop Flynn in that role if they can. Gentlemen, let's go to LA. Actually, I don't know if this was on the road or in LA, but Andre Drummond returned for the Lakers, doubled with 15 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals across 27 minutes. Guys with LeBron and AD both out for at least about a week. Drummond could get a lot of run if his toe's healthy, couldn't he?
Absolutely. It's pretty encouraging to see him get 27 minutes. In what turned out to be his second game with the Lakers, his first game where he's fully available because he left that debut after 14 minutes with a toe injury. It's certainly encouraging. I mean, the fact that they reinserted him into the starting lineup immediately, that he got 27 minutes, he's the type of player who, even if he's only playing 26 to 28 minutes, can post a double-double, get you some defensive stats. You know what you're getting from Drummond. The one issue with him is free throw percentage, but everything else is going to be solid. So if you own him, if you had him stashed, you're definitely happy about what you saw last night.
He was even a nice 5 of 6 from the charity stripe last night, surprisingly. Alex, you mentioned Drummond in your recent column about busts and booms from this past draft, right?
I did. Yeah, I mean, I'm also someone who has Drummond in our 14-team stake league, and that was I felt like I knew what I was getting myself into when I put him on my
Great
roster.
For a few weeks, right? Great for 5-6 weeks,
right? But I figured, hey, worst case scenario, he gets traded. He misses a few games here or there. He's going to sit out 6 weeks because that is that's like pretty not unprecedented, but in this situation. Doesn't seem like something that would have happened. So anyone who has Drummond on their roster is just happy he's back because you couldn't trade him. So
you used your IL spot for him, I assume, right?
Yeah, most of the time.
For that?
I had Towns on there for a while. Luka, I can't maybe, but yeah. Okay.
Shannon, you want to take us to Sacramento? Big game in Sacramento last night. Big.
Yeah, the Pistons took down the Kings, beating them 113-101 for the road win. Oh man, that Pistons starting lineup, I saw numerous tweets come across my timeline about it. It was a very ugly thing to look at.
Give us the starting lineup. I'm looking at it now.
Oh, you had Isaiah Stewart, Corey Joseph, Josh Jackson, Dennis Smith Jr., and who else? Who am I forgetting? Bay. Yeah. I'm sorry. The bidet. And what turned out to be Corey Joseph revenge game.
Boom!
Just dominating the Kings for 24
Kings.
points. Oh,
Can someone please remind me why the Kings didn't make some deals at the deadline and deal Barnes and Hield? This team's terrible at 22-30. They're 12th in the West. You're going to point out DeLon Wright's night for the Kings, by the way, Shannon? A whopping 5 points, 4 rebounds in 22 minutes. The gentleman they dealt Corey Joseph for.
revenge game.
I have a theory. The three of us could easily run the Kings better than their current management. But I wanted to give Shannon some shine there on the Pistons, and I also
Yeah.
Kings, baby.
The Kings, odd decisions all around. I think they probably thought they could compete for the play-in, but I don't see that happening. No, the Pistons. I mean, Isaiah Stewart. He's the one big take. Well, actually, there's a couple big takeaways for me for the Pistons. Isaiah Stewart looking really good this week. You've had Miles Plumlee or Mason Plumlee, one of the Plumlees. You guys know, yeah. Sit out a couple games. So Stewart's made 2 spot starts. Last night, Stewart was 33 minutes, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. It's hard not to be impressed by Stewart the more I watch him. He's kind of like a Montrezl Harrell type player, but with more defensive upside for fantasy sports. He's just all hustle, and he has some athleticism. He doesn't have a jump shot. He's got to be not going to be making too many 3-pointers. He's had a couple games where he sank some threes, but I don't think that's a big part of his game yet. But the athleticism and hustle, the defensive presence that he actually has, it's encouraging as a Pistons fan, and I do think he's going to have a future as a fantasy, like a somewhat impactful, or at least a player who's worth rostering in fantasy basketball.
When they're all healthy, Shannon, next year, could they have Plumlee and Stewart play together, or are they just too similar?
I think that'll be difficult. My guess, I believe this team's roster is going to be quite a bit different still. I don't see, and most Pistons fans probably don't agree with me, but Jeremy Grant's not a long-term part of the rotation, in my opinion. Same for Plumlee. I think the front office was just looking to spend the money they had and get some players who, they could eventually flip in the, maybe 1-2 years down the line. I wouldn't be surprised if either Isaiah Stewart overtakes Plumlee next season, or Plumlee's on a different roster. We'll see. This team's going to be making lots of moves. And they're also going to, ideally have a very high draft pick and be adding a type A personality who's ready to dominate and lead them moving forward with next year's squad. Actually, you know what? Last player, I'll talk about. I'll wait for the waiver wire section. Last player from the Pistons.
Okay.
We'll talk about later.
I dare you to find a podcast with more Detroit Piston insights than the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Friday pod. All right, Alex. Big Western battle last night out west.
Clippers beat the Suns 113-103. That ended the Suns' 7-game winning streak, as they have been inching closer and closer to the Utah Jazz, and that race to the number 1 seed is really interesting right now. But Rondo, off the bench, 15 points, 9 dimes. Paul George, 33 points. Kawhi with 27. That's a big game for Paul George. He's been dealing with that toe injury that sounds like it's going to basically be an issue for him for the rest of the season. Once Serge Ibaka returns, that's big for the Clippers. They'll be healthy then. And I guess technically he could return tonight, but Ken, do you think, as far as contention goes, that we're sleeping on the Clippers, who I think, by all means, upgraded their roster over the offseason?
Yeah. I feel like the Clippers are like the Bucks. I just assume they're going to have a good regular season, and I just don't care until the playoffs. As far as an NBA fan goes, fantasy-wise, sure. I'm just so nervous about Leonard and George getting rested various nights, and I don't think they care about winning the first or second. As long as they're top 4. I don't even know how much top 4 gets you with this empty stadiums and all this, but I assume down the stretch they'll sit those guys more. I assume this also means fantasy-wise Reggie Jackson's few days of glow there are done with. Rondo's now had a good game, so I guess he'll take 2 off. Isn't that his standard protocol? But Ibaka back, that's going to be pretty huge for these guys. That's going to be awesome. Shannon, are you sleeping on the Clippers?
Sleeping on them? No. I mean, they're a solid team. Obviously, like any team with Kawhi is going to make some noise in the playoffs. They could easily win the West. That would not surprise me if they come out of the West. I'm actually of the opinion that any of the top 6 teams in the West, I actually think it's pretty wide open.
The
Obviously,
top 4 teams out West have all been 8-2 over their last 10 games. Pretty
yeah,
good.
they're solid teams, and you can even look at like the Mavericks. They're charging. They're 7-3 over the past 10. I am a believer in the Trailblazers and Dame leading that team to anywhere. I think he's good enough to lead them to a championship, especially if Nurkic is healthy and everyone else is healthy. I honestly, the top 6 teams, and if you want to throw Dallas in there, top 7, they're all so good, and they have kind of those top tier level stars, superstars leading them that anything could happen, and any one of those teams come out of the West, and I would not be surprised. I think, assuming LeBron and AD are healthy, the Lakers are still the top pick. But any of those teams are just so good.
Ken, let's go to fan feedback section.
Yeah, shout out to fan Mr. Power Metal, who wants to know, gentlemen, about your most recent trades and how you're doing in your leagues. Well, you two collect your thoughts. I'll say, I struggled again in my keeper league. I'll complain a little about that in the old man rant. But I am second in the FSGA Expert League. Very happy about that, despite having Karl Anthony Town as my first pick. Alex, you know all about that and dealing with his big early absence of woes. So most of my trades, though, in the keeper league have been just dealing older, high salary guys for as many young upside people. I've got more than I can keep on that keeper squad, but it's just, they're all darts, including Isaiah Stewart there in the Pistons. So we'll see who perks up. But any interesting trade you guys have made?
Ken, I think we've made 2 trades in the Stake League, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember Randall for a Holiday, right?
Yeah, I sent you Randall, and then I also got Harrison Barnes from you somehow, right?
Oh, yeah. What was that? Oh, I forgot about that one. Yes, you did get Barnes to me, and I cannot for the life of me. Oh, maybe Joe Harris? Maybe Joe Harris?
Oh, yeah, I think it was Joe Harris for
Going
Barnes.
Going for threes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a good lesson as we get down to crunch time. Somehow that league has come down to steals. Like every team's within 6 steals of each other. Classic. Now that we're down to, the second half, you need to obsess about your standings charts, and in particular, which categories are you going to go for? It may have been foolish for me to go for threes. I didn't realize how tight steals would get. And I'm not sure I can make up territory in threes. But we'll see. Shannon, what kind of deals have you made recently in some leagues?
Yeah, and I agree, Ken. Your point about looking at the standings, really targeting what you need, and trying to find those categories. And a good way to do that is to find an owner who needs a category that you have a surplus of. And that's what I did in my most recent league. It's one of our internal staff leagues here. I traded for James Harden. I received James Harden and Bojan Bogdanovic in exchange for Rudy Gobert and I think Darius Garland. I think it was Rudy Gobert and Darius Garland. And it was right.
They needed blocks. They needed
blocks. Exactly. I was far and away the leader in the. I have Capella on my squad as well, so I was just crushing blocks in that league. It's like a 20 deep team league, crushing blocks. Don't think I'm going to lose any ground there. They needed blocks, and he was willing to trade Harden. I was happy to take him on. It was right before Harden got hurt. I think he played one healthy game for me, and then he's been out since. But that's the type of trade I'm targeting right now at this time of year. If you're not past your trade deadline, go category hunting and target the teams who who need the surplus category stats that you have.
Yeah. Our other fan feedback, Ramesh K, asked on Saturday, this is last Saturday, if it's worth keeping Kevin Durant. At the time, he did not know if KD was coming back. He did return Wednesday, produced 17 points, 7 boards, 5 assists over 19 minutes, actually shot 5 of 5 from the field. Obviously, KD's worth keeping. James Harden, who Shannon just mentioned, is out probably for roughly a week, probably to the 16th. But gentlemen, how much value does Kevin Durant have rest of season?
I mean, he could be a top 5 player fantasy-wise, I think. I mean,
you don't think game count will be an issue? You don't think they'll rest him?
Yeah, he could get rested. Per game value, I think it's there. I mean, you're going to keep him on your roster.
He's already, per game value, just based off the 19 minutes that he played in that one appearance, he's already a top 50 per game value player over the past 2 weeks. So, just based on that's off of 19 minutes. Per game value, he's easily, at worst, he's like a top 20 player. And at best, he's the number 1 overall player. So,
but if you're in a league with weekly moves, right, and you're having a hard time predicting when they sit him or not, do you trade him for somebody who's like a Sabonis who you expect to play every day when he's healthy for the Pacers, a team kind of on the cusp? He's got huge name value, huge per game when he's not sitting. I tend to think maybe he's overvalued. Use that huge name leverage to try to get something more reliable.
I would maybe only if it's a category swap, like Shannon was talking about earlier. I think that's because if you're kind of trading KD for a guy who puts up similar, I wouldn't do that. I would keep KD. But again, if you're someone who if you need the pure field goal percentage and the rebounds, and maybe you need blocks or something, then I can see working out a trade for a technically worse fantasy player. If you're in a situation like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, man, because even when healthy, KD's been arguably having, if not one of the 2 or 3 best seasons of his career when healthy this year, from a fantasy standpoint.
Maybe with Harden's injury, they're less tempted to give him extra off nights, too. We'll see. All right, Alex, I think it's time for us to head into our waiver wire section, sir.
Yeah, I have a former Celtic, Kelly Olynyk.
Is this the 5th time we've listed him in the waiver wire section?
I don't know. I can't keep track of who I to suggest for this section anymore. It's been too long. But 40%.
With the Rockets now. With the Rockets now.
He is rostered in 47% of ESPN leagues. Over the past 2 weeks, he is ranked 15th in per game value. 17.5 points per game on 60% field goal, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block. Him and Christian Wood played together on the court sometimes. Those lineups have been awful. I looked them up the other day. They are minus 30 per 100 possessions when those two are on the court together, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not worried about his minutes or anything. He's not going to shoot 60% from the field, right? But he should continue to return top 100 value for the rest of the season, I would imagine.
And hits a few threes for a big man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's part of it. I think it's like 2 threes a game. But yeah, I mean, he has to be rostered, I think.
A lot of minutes to go around down in Houston.
Yep. Ken, who is your available in 50% of leagues player?
I almost think I'm more excited about my long shot than I am of my available in 50. But I went with Davis Bertans strictly because he's a terrible NBA player on a ridiculous contract. But he just returned from a calf injury and is red hot. He's a red hot shooter from the field. If you need triples, he's your guy. Last 3 games since returning, 16.7 points and 4.7 triples per game. This is total category play. He's going to get a ton of minutes for a bad Washington team. Anyway, if you need threes, Bertans is a nice category play right now, and he's available. Listen to this difference. He's available in 51% of Yahoo and only 19% of ESPN. I don't get how that can be so wildly different, but anyway, there you are. The Lithuanian laser, is that what it is? The 9.5-fingered laser Lithuanian, something like that.
The Latvian laser.
Latvian. There, I knew I was getting something wrong. Yeah, Latvian. Yes.
Yeah, who is owed $16 million in 2025, by the way.
Well, the beard alone is $10 million.
Yeah.
The Amish community, big on Bertans. Love that guy. It's like looking in the mirror.
The Wizards, I could do a whole podcast on the Wizards signing Bertans to like a $50-60 million deal. Like, it just does not make sense.
We could get that sponsored by, like, I don't know, a wooden stagecoach company.
Yeah, I was on Twitter, and this was when people were trying to find out trades for Drummond. Like, who wants Drummond? And someone suggested like Bertans for Drummond. And I'm like, the Cavs would not do that.
No.
Right.
The Cavs would never take
one guy we have to dump for another guy we have to dump. Yeah.
It's like they would just literally rather waive Drummond.
Yeah.
Shannon, who is your available in 50% of leagues player?
So I have 3 players I'm going to highlight today. I think they all actually fall under the 25%, but that's fine. Okay. So the first 2 are they share a last name, Jalen and Jaden McDaniels. So Jaden McDaniels, starting power forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He started 9 consecutive games, 10 out of the past 11 games. But in those 9 consecutive starts, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, 1.9 3-pointers made. It looks like he's probably locked into that starting power forward role for them moving forward. He's lightly owned. I think he's worth a look.
Available in 70% of leagues on Yahoo.
Yeah, and then Jalen McDaniels, he just came in and got a spot start for the Bobcats, the Hornets. Sorry, the Hornets. They've got Malik Monk's out, Gordon Hayward's out, LaMelo Ball, of course, is out, and they actually went with PJ Washington. This is against the Oklahoma City Thunder on Wednesday, I believe. They started Jalen McDaniels at small forward, pushing Bridges up to the 4, and PJ Washington to the 5, taking Biyombo essentially out of the rotation, which is something I envision they will continue to do. And with that, I mean, with McDaniels in the rotation and in the starting lineup, that one game he went off for 21-6, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 3-pointers. He should be one of the hotter pickups for the next weekly period.
He also qualifies at center on Yahoo, oddly enough.
Wow, that's just weird. And I feel like McDaniels has upside for not just short term, like a 1-week streamer. I mean, you've got Malik Monk's out until possibly like the end of the month, like May 1st. Same for Hayward. These guys are both out for multiple weeks. So with that in mind, I mean, McDaniels could definitely get an extended look here as part of the starting lineup, and it's worthwhile to plug him into your fantasy lineup for a week or two while he's getting that extra run.
As long as LaMelo Ball is out.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say they should be referred to as the Bobcats as long as LaMelo Ball is out.
Deal. I like it.
But also, like, this is the point of the season that we're at in terms of, like, can you imagine at the beginning of the year us being like, you should probably roster both McDaniels brothers? You know, like, who would have? People would be like, who are the McDaniels brothers? So my long shot of the week, Cody Zeller going to the Bobcats. He's 10% roster on ESPN, 12% roster on Yahoo.
You know, Alex, you have picked both the dull pickups of the week here.
I have.
Alex, you picked the 2 players who are your NBA comps.
All right. I actually wouldn't mind a Kelly Olynyk comp. Right. That'd be okay. I'd live with that.
Clinic, Barutha.
Yeah. Although the one time I saw him playing pickup ball with a backwards hat on, and I was like, you can't do that.
Canadian. It's the Canadian.
Yeah, that is a very Canadian move. I think. But yeah, Cody Zeller over the past 5 games, 12 points and 65% shooting, 8.5 rebounds, almost 2 assists and a steal, ranked 109th over this stretch. He's Cody Zeller, right? You put him on your roster. He's like the 100th best player in fantasy. He gets hurt. You drop him. You pick him back up 3 weeks later. Like, that's what it is.
And you feel dirty about it.
Yeah, it's never great. Yeah, and then you watch him dunk on Giannis, and you're like, is this guy a top 12 center?
And then in the morning, you read the box scores, and you're like, Damn it, Zeller, you couldn't get one block. You're like 8'9". Can you get one damn block, Zeller?
Zeller is just a walking 10-6, right?
Ooh.
ESPN doesn't cover it, but we will. Okay.
I'll quickly repeat. My long shot is still Kenrich Williams, OKC. Everyone you've never heard of is getting big minutes in OKC. Kenrich playing the point forward position for them with Maladon gunning. Anyway, worth a flyer. Almost had a triple-double last night. What the heck? Roll the dice. If you don't get Williams, get some OKC Thunder. It's fun. It gives you a reason to read the box score. Those guys are zany. Go Thunder.
There's zany. That's like you know how teams that are rebuilding have to come up with like terrible catchphrases for their you know, like we're on the rise. And it's like we're zany. It's just a picture of like Isaiah Roby shooting a 3.
Badly.
Yeah, Kenrich Williams trying a behind the back pass.
Like Maladon's only 19.
Right.
You know, like, is that a marketable? I don't know, but he's on the cover of the media guide.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what their like 3-player media guide would be. I guess it would be SGA, Pokashevsky.
Al Horford in a rocking chair on his porch.
Oh, I forgot about Al Horford, man.
No, it's got to be SGA. They've probably already printed him with SGA.
With Maladon and Ty Jerome sitting on his lap, one on each knee.
Come to me, my young Thunder. Let me tell you about the days in Atlanta.
All right, so my final pickup here, this guy definitely falls under that 25%, so we'll call him a long shot. Killian Hayes, back for the Detroit Pistons. Absolutely crushing it.
Your NBA comp, Killian Hayes.
Yeah. All right, well, let's clear this up. Alex, your actual NBA comp is Kirilenko, okay. But I also attribute that to the fact that you're playing against guys 10 years older than you, 5 inches shorter than you, and way less athletic than you. So you look like Kirilenko on the defensive end of the court by default.
He's AK-47.
That's good. I've thought that since our first time playing together. Kirilenko's the comp.
I love Kirilenko.
You know what? He's AK-47, and we're like fat, drunk Russians that just got off the night shift at the vodka distillery coming in trying to guard Alex.
Yes. Yeah. No, my NBA comp is YMCA rec ball Tampa. Like that's my NBA comp. So that's fine. Which is fine. All right. So Killian Hayes, he's back for the Pistons. He's appeared in 3 of the past 4 games. He had one big outing. He's come off the bench in all 3 of those games. He had one big outing, 38 fantasy points. Thursday night against the Kings, 18 fantasy points, 21 minutes off the bench, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block. He's hit a couple. He's had 1 3-pointer each of the past 2 games. I mean, things started off really rough for Killian Hayes. He looked like he had no confidence out there on the court. And the positive thing that I've seen since his return is he actually looks like he has confidence now. I think they were one of the reasons why they're slow to bring him back is so he could log extra playing time and get instruction from the coaches. And I think it's shown. I expect him to be inserted back into the starting lineup, probably within the next week or 2. We'll see how slow they take it, but he's still one of their big actual building blocks long term. So they're going to want to get him back in the starting lineup. And I think if you're in a deep enough league, you're looking for assists. He's a guy it's worth taking a flyer on because he will see his minutes creep up and he'll start playing 28, 30 minutes per game down the stretch for the Pistons.
He's undoubtedly their starting point guard next season, Shannon, right? But I think if I was Pistons management, I'd be tempted to let him beat up on backups coming off the bench. Let Smith get abused by starting quality point guards. I'd be all into making sure Hayes feels good about next season.
I don't think Smith finishes the season with the Pistons. I think he's cut as soon as they get healthy again. I'm
not saying there's any value
right.
in Smith. Purely
he doesn't get on the plane one day.
I was blown away that he started Thursday's game. He had basically already fell out of the rotation. It looked like they were going to just go with Lee and Hayes and Corey Joseph. I still don't think I don't think Smith's
DNP for Lee. DNP for Lee last night. That was weird.
It was very weird. So, the Pistons do have 5 games this week, and that's part of it. So that's why they're being very cautious and odd with their rotation this week. They're sitting multiple players. Mason Plumlee, he already sat on Monday night just for rest purposes. I think if they didn't have 5 games this week, it's entirely possible everyone on the roster would have played last night and been healthy. I think they're just kind of handling the situation with kids gloves because of where they are in the standings, what their goals are for this season. But
I think we may have hit our Piston max.
No. When you unleash beef stew, you're not going to lose, as they found last night.
All right, gentlemen, take us to your glorious Friday DFS picks.
Yeah, DFS becomes more chaotic every week. I wouldn't even consider making a lineup until about 20 minutes before lock at this point, because it's just players they're not on the injury report, and then they show up on the injury report, and then it's chaos. Highest over under, or the only over 230 is Washington at Golden State, 238.5. These are the guys that are questionable as of right now. I'm sure this will change the second that we post the podcast, but Giannis, Ingram, Sabonis, Capella, Brogdon, Murray, and Ball. I think one thing that I'm going to assume Steph Curry plays tonight, and these are all these suggestions are qualified by we assume they're in. We hope they're playing. Steph Curry, $9,600 on FanDuel against the Wizards. In that high over-under game. We know the Wizards have terrible defense, and Curry's averaging 46 fantasy points since the start of March. This is just an opportunity to get someone in your lineup who is going to put up 45 fantasy points and has upside for obviously 60. And I think almost anybody on the Wizards is decent value, or excuse me. Well, actually, there are guys on both sides. Beal is decent value too, but Golden State, this could be a big game for them. This could be a big game for Wiseman. Who's been up and down. The Wizards have a terrible center rotation, so this could be an opportunity for him as well to, he is. It's kind of an aside. I can't. The criticism that he is under is absolutely insane. From everybody,
it is
for being a 19-year-old who played 3 college games and is now joining a formerly dynastic team trying to win a title that would not even be a title.
It's spoiled Warrior fans, basically.
No,
right?
It's not. It's a lot of draft pundits and silly folks. Anyone who writes off a rookie as a bust in their rookie season, or even their sophomore season, it's just ridiculous to me. And it doesn't. None of it makes sense. R.J. Barrett was the biggest bust ever last year. Knicks fans love him this year, and they think he's like a bona fide all-star superstar this season, which is taking it way too far. He's having a good season. He's progressed well. But he's not an all-star yet, not even close, in my opinion. And just writing off, Killian Hayes after appearing in 5-6 games, or Wiseman, it doesn't make any sense at all. I agree. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
I think a lot of people are just upset that they seeing LaMelo Ball on the Hornets, and then you think about how he could have been on the Warriors, and people just get angry.
Right.
It's just get mad because they're it could have been Curry and LaMelo, and it could have been the dynasty again, and then they have the Wolves pick, and they get Jalen Suggs. And, it just okay. Is there anybody that sticks out to you on this slate, Ken?
My cheapo suggestion would be Edmund Sumner for the Pacers. Brogdon's still out. It's only 3,900 on FanDuel. Facing a Magic team with essentially no point guard. Michael Carter-Williams, I think, is going to get the start for the Magic tonight. So I like Edmund Sumner as a cheapo option.
I'm always surprised when I see him play. He's always kind of been around for the Pacers, and then, I'm surprised when he's in, but then when he's on the court, he's doing good things out there, and I'm is Sumner a rotation player? Which is kind of the only, when you're...
Well, if he doesn't do it against the Magic, then no, he is not a rotation player.
Yeah,
this is a golden opportunity.
A normal NBA fan should not be having that thought, but here we are. Shannon, is there anybody that sticks out for you on this slate that you're assuming will play?
Oh, man. I like I like McDaniels. Now, which McDaniels? I'm going to let you decide. No, I like Jalen McDaniels for the Hornets, assuming that he starts again. $4,300. I mentioned the big game that he's coming off in his first start. I surprisingly like D'Angelo Russell. More so just a byproduct of the shooting guard position. His price, he's $6,300. He's only played 24 and 23 minutes the first couple games back. I'm assuming he's going to get a little bit extra run in tonight's slate. One of the more expensive guys that's on discount for Friday's slate is Trae Young, 8,100. It's typically I don't remember the last time I've seen him this low. He's kind of been creeping down recently. He had a couple poo appearances, but he's still mostly a lock for around 45 fantasy points, and at 8,100 with a guy who has upside to go 50 plus. I like that price tag for him. Ben Simmons. Ben's hasn't been great. He hasn't been great. Too many sub 30 fantasy point outings, but again, a guy with his upside and at 7,400, I like that play. You mentioned the Warriors against Washington. Kelly Oubre's one, who I would definitely be targeting. He just had a 50-point outing earlier this week. And with Washington, that's going to be a high-scoring game. So I like Oubre. 6,400 is a good price for him, and considering his upside.
Yeah, my last suggestion, just so this segment doesn't get dated too quickly, Tobias Harris, 7,900 against the Pelicans. This is kind of like this is like the Pelicans defense. The weakest part of their defense is the wing with Ingram and Zion, and they play that very specific drop coverage with Steven Adams in the pick and roll where they just drop Steven Adams back to the basket. And Tobias Harris being a jump shooter, you can just run him off screens and have him shoot from 16 feet all game, and he can score 25 points on those jumpers. He's a 50, 40, 90 player. Yeah. So that's more of that's kind of like a deep cut, just like X's and O's play. So we'll see how that goes. But nice. The problem with him is that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are on the team, and you never know when they just kind of dominate the offense or when Steph Curry shoots 10 threes.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there anybody else for you, Shannon?
I think the team I'm really watching, I'm looking at the Hawks and seeing what happens with Capella, Gallinari, Collins, Kriston, Hunter, Reddish, they're all out. So if Capella and Gallinari get ruled out again like they were the most recent game, that just opens the door for more Hawks. Then I'm considering Bogdanovic, Okongwu, Trae Young. I already have him in my lineup. Kevin Huerter. You can even get crazy and go with Solomon Hill. If they're that short, I know it's crazy. Yeah, a little bit of crazy is good. Solomon Hill started 5 consecutive games. He's a little bit risky there, but that's how deep it might end up going. You might have to go on the Hawks if all these other guys are sitting. So they're a team I'm really keeping a close eye on just to see how many folks are available.
And frankly, still shout out to Nate McMillan for what he's done with the Hawks since taking over. Impressive.
Yeah, they're the 4 seed, I think, which is kind of 5 right now. They're below Charlotte. I don't know. The East is wild.
Gonna last.
I thought their upside was a 4 seed, but I'm still a little surprised that they hit that at one point. Okay, Ken, let's go to your old man rant.
It's going to be a remorseful, wistful, daydreamy rant of what could have been with Jimmy Buckets. I was all in on Jimmy Butler this season, but then he missed 15 games early in the season. You combine that with too much D'Angelo Russell, many of my fantasy squads struggled. But Jimmy Buckets is on fire now. Over the last 30 days, he's ranked 2nd in total stats, 9 category leagues. If only he was healthy early. Sure, there were other blunders, and now Gordon Hayward, who I have across the board, he's out till early May. Still, I can't help daydreaming of a possibly joyous January if Jimmy Buckets had just been healthy.
It could have been because he He is actually having his best fantasy season per game right now.
2 steals a game. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
22,
I know
7,
Shannon always
7.
makes fun of not enough threes, but
It's a problem.
Threes the last 30 days. So I'm
And
gonna
his lack of threes is a problem from a fantasy standpoint.
He's 10th per game right now.
Ranked second total stats last 30 days.
And he also forces you to roster Bertans because you need threes from elsewhere.
He is on season average at 8th on Yahoo 9 category leagues as well.
Jimmy Butler been crushing it since the bubble. Jimmy Bubble.
All right, guys. What last names did we get wrong today? I think we butchered a few of those OKC names, but
I'm pretty sure it's just Kenrich Williams, not
Kenrich.
I don't.
There's no D. There's no D in it. It's Ken.
I know it's Kenrich, like CH.
Say Rick, not Rich.
You don't say Rich. That's how it's spelled. Trust me, Ken. Trust me.
Okay, on Basketball Reference it says it's Kenrich.
Yeah.
Hello.
I don't care what they say. Go watch some highlights.
Everyone else could be wrong. We never know. It's kind of like a pet peeve. The OKC announcer for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander says Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when it drives me insane. Especially since it's the home announcer. Why
did they just go SGA? Like the whole crowd could get into that. When they
have a crowd. But that's been happening lately because the vaccines are here. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Ken, take us out of here.
Yeah, we're going to go to Minnesota and guard previously mentioned guard D'Angelo Russell, who said this about fickle fans. He said, quote, LeBron James still gets criticism. Jesus still gets criticized. End quote. Attention passengers, this 3-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.